welcome back to Textiles East Fair YouTube channel. This is a channel really dedicated to those that attend the Textiles East Fair, but you're all welcome. So if you're not in the UK and you're abroad, then warm wishes to you, and I hope you enjoy the content that I upload. This video, I thought I'd just upload a little update as to the sort of projects I'm doing currently. So come and have a look at my table. These are the leaves on my ginkgo tree, and they are beginning to turn, and they're inspiring me to add these leaves to my quilt. Okay, I've got a pile of triangles and I've got a pile of centre squares, and I'm going to put the triangles on so that they form these squares, but there'll be the image in the centre will be in like a diamond. So I've cut my triangles for this particular colourway that I was going to use, and I'm pinning them on just on two edges to machine, and I'm going to machine them like a continuous strip. So you machine and then you machine the next one, and so it's a chain, so all like a chain stitch linking them. And then I'm going to press that. Once that's pressed, I'll put the other one on this side and the one on the other side. And what I'll end up with, and I've done some already, and these are pressed. And you'll see that these ones have already been stitched, and I've got enough space here so that when I do these seam allowance I won't lose my points. So I've done two toadstools in that colourway, I've done the ginkgo leaf, I've done a sycamore with, you know, making sure I use up different batiks. So these are the ones that have been done, and these are the ones I'm doing, and I should have another pile of ones that need ironing. Right, okay, so I've started pinning them on. I've chosen a very neutral thread that will really go with it. Sort of like a rusty browny colour, so I can use it for all, so it's quite a neutral colour. Now, these panels were already pre-cut. Now, they're quite thin, and so what I've done is I've just got a fabric that I've got quite a lot of, and I've used it as a backing, and it's quite a neutral colour, and I've done that with the other ones as well, so I'm backing them because they're also very thin. And these, as I say, these green and this burgundy were pre-cut. Now, the pre-cut was actually quite an odd size. I didn't realise at the time when I bought it. So in centimetres it's 17.5, and then in inches, which I don't work in inches it's just under 7 inches. So because I work in centimetres, you may have noticed that I was using my Prim dressmaker's ruler to cut with, because that's got centimetres on, and my quilting ruler has only got inches on. So because I knew I needed to cut squares, so these were actually, you probably saw me earlier in the video, I cut a square. That square is 14.5 centimetres. I don't know what 14.5 centimetres is. In inches, actually. What is that in inches? Just over 5.5. I say just over, it's, yeah. The thing is, of course, centimetres I find to be much more accurate, which is why I choose to use centimetres, though a lot of people I know in the quilting world use inches. I prefer centimetres. That's probably because I was born of the year of the decimalisation, and we've pretty much abandoned it in the UK, apart from those that still quilt. The backing I've made a fraction bigger, and I can always trim that away, so I'm not too bothered about that. But what I'm doing is I'm definitely lining up the edge of the triangle with the edge of the fabric underneath. I've got a little tiny bit of a rabbit's ear, I call it, each end, make sure that's even, because otherwise when it opens up it won't be square, and I would like it to be square. So I've pinned up 2 edges on the majority of them, and I'm just going to quickly show you how I sort of strip sew or chain link or whatever you want to call it, mass production. So let me just turn a little bit more so you can see the sewing machine. There we go. And if I get my first one, or it's called chain piecing in industry. Now I also like to change my needle position to quite close to the edge because I want to get these as big as possible, but with the smallest seam allowance, because I like to keep the edge of my foot on the edge of my seam when I sew. So I always sew to the pin and stop. And then I actually do dot knot. I mean, a lot of people don't bother, they just run on to the next piece, but I do like to do, on my machine it's like a little circle with a dot in it, I call it the dot knot, and I like to dot knot. I'm going to get my next piece, I'm going to line it up with the foot. Now I actually do lift my foot a little bit, I do drag that a little bit out of the way so it doesn't catch. And then I go, so I don't run straight through, some people run straight through. I prefer to have a break, it's easier to cut it. Do my dot knot at the beginning. It's the edge of fabric on the edge of the foot on the edge of the fabric I actually want to sew, ignoring the backing material in this case. And I just keep sewing in a chain. Right, I've sewn these 2 sides. I can trim these up. I might do that as well. Just trim off any bit that I don't want. When I end up with loads of fluff everywhere following me around the house. And then I'm just going to fold those out. I mean, I could just finger press it, but I actually am going to press them. I just find if you do that at this stage, and then I can put the next one on. Along the top, lining it up. In this case, this fabric could also do with the press. Let's get that bit of a press. Make sure the little bunny ears are equal both sides. I mean, you can actually, if you really want to be really precise, you could actually draw a line and match it up with a mark on your panel. But I'm actually just doing it by eye. I'm happy with that. I'll do that side and repeat with this side. Again, that looks like it could do with a bit of a press. As I say, if you want to be really precise, then I'd love to be really precise, but and that'll open up like that. So I'll do that to all of the ones I've done that were done in the chain. I've got 4 here to do, and then I'll chain them again. So I'll meet you again, or show you again in a bit. Right, I'm just putting on the other 2 sides now. Careful to line up where my little bunny ears are, because that's where a little extra is for the point. My next panel, and lift up, drag 2, and then as I say, I've got that little cutting length. And I'll keep going with all my pieces like this until they're all together. There you go, they're all done, and I'm just ironing them all. What I can do is square them up if they're a little bit out. Hopefully I've got enough to play around with to square them up because I've got enough for the point. And yeah, slowly getting through them. So I've just used the lines on the ruler to make sure it's squared up and neat. So I've just trimmed a little bit of that off. This I need to be 26 by 26, and that's going to patch onto here. What I might do is I might even put another piece of white fabric underneath. I can see it bleeding through. Yeah. So I just need to iron this because my cutting mat's got some centimetres on it, and it's actually got a 26, sorry, I should say, just here. So I'm going to use the 26, use the 26 at the top and use the 26 at the bottom, line it up. Cut that. Covered in bits. It's following me around the house. That will sit on there. I've got to iron that like that, and then I'm going to blanket stitch it on. I've ironed it all the way around, hemmed it, turned it under all the way around, and I've put a piece of cream calico underneath because it was the oranges showing through the cream, so, and it gives it a bit of firmness to sew. I'm just pinning it in, and then I'm going to blanket stitch around it like I have the other patches. This fabric is not easy to manage. It doesn't want normally cotton fabrics stay in place. This one's not so keen to. So yeah, I'll come back and show you how I'm getting on. Okay, so I'm using a Gutermann Silky. It's quite a thick thread, it's not particularly thin. It's a cotton 30, it says. So it's 100% cotton, and it's a variegated sort of orange tones. And all I'm going to do is blanket stitch all the way around. So done my knot. I always like to start halfway somewhere, like here. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, so I better zoom in for you. Hopefully you can see now. And then I'll go along a bit, catch the fabric, come up, put it through, do a cross along the edge, come in, catch it, and then lift up. Follow across the edge, come in, catch the thread underneath, pull up. So as I say, it's a blanket stitch along the edge. Hopefully you can see that. And I'm going to do that all the way around. I won't do the whole lot videoing it for you because I think you'd get very bored. So I'll come back and show you how I've got on. Right, all these blocks I've English paper pieced. I was going to do it on the machine, but my I don't know what it is, my accuracy really wasn't up to it. And to be honest with you, I enjoyed sitting in front of the telly or watching children swimming. So it was good that I could just crack on with these as and when I had a peaceful moment. So this is where I've got up to, and it's got the paper still in it. So I'm going to sit now and take the papers out. And what I tend to do is I grab the knot and just pull, and then they should just lift out. So I'm going to do that to all of them. What I tend to do is I tend to use what's called tacking thread. It's a very loose spun thread, so it won't tear my fabric. While I'm doing this, people might go, oh gosh, you're going to damage it. What I could, if you really want to, if you want to take forever, you could just get a pair of scissors and just do it bit by bit. You know, you can do that, or go halfway and then pull the rest of it out by pulling on the knot and lifting them out. The paper that I use, believe it or not, is stuff that comes through the post. So bank envelopes are perfect because they're actually quite good strong paper. So yeah, if you get your statements still from the bank or whatever, your mortgage rates or whatever, any envelope actually is usually pretty good. The white ones, that is. I probably wouldn't use the brown ones because they're usually recycled paper, but these are usually quite good quality paper. So I'm going to carry on taking these out, and then I'm going to trim it up. So I've took all the papers out now. I'm going to just re-iron it all back out on the edges because I ironed it to make sure it was all stitched nice. I've also trimmed up the centres, so the centres lie a bit flatter here. Now I'm going to give it a cursory this way because I need to turn it over. Because where the triangles are, I need to make sure that is all lying out flat and properly so that I can trim it off with a rotary cutter, because the triangles have a terrible habit of curling back in. And what I'm doing, I'm using my red line to follow the inner section, and I'm making sure the point is within this gap on the ruler. Now, I think this ruler, I think it's inches. Which is why when people say to me, do you work in centimetres or inches? I have no idea. I tend to work in both. Right, so this is the patch that will be stitched on this side like that. Now this fox, I don't know if you can see, is one of the panels, and I have blanket stitched the edge, so the centre one will go with it, with the maple leaf. That's the centre one, so that's the blanket stitch on there, and I'm going to stitch that onto there like that. So I'm going to be doing all of them bit by bit. Right, here you go. Here is my, I don't know if you can see it all, it's not quite in camera, quite in frame, but this is, we'll just tilt up a little bit so you can see the top. The middle one's missing because that's the maple leaf, which is I'm hand stitching currently, and then the rest I'm slowly piecing them together. I'm sewing them in strips, so the top row has been done, the second row's also been sewn, and then they've been sewn together. This one I've sewn as a strip, but it hasn't been sewn on yet. The middle one is obviously the one that's under construction, and then you can see these other this other one here at the bottom are all being stitched on as we speak. And yeah, so I'm going to carry on stitching them together, and then hopefully you'll get to see the finished quilt, so well, the finished top of my sandwich to be. Now, I always do a dot knot at the beginning and at the end. A lot of people don't, they just carry on, and I have found in the past that some quilts have come apart, so I do recommend either you do your dot knot if you've got a dot knot on your machine, or your back stitch. Now I'm going to go and get some more panels, and then I'm just going to keep going. So I do feed on to the next piece, and then I do my dot knot at the beginning. So when I cut them apart, because they're in a string now, aren't they? And then I'll have to press them. So the joys of quilting is having to get your iron out. I don't know about you, but I don't iron anything else. Hi, I've got to the point now where I can now pin my top with the batting underneath. This batting, it's a cotton, I think it might be a cotton polyester blend. And then I've also got my backing fabric, which I actually chose to use a brushed cotton, and so I'm just pinning it. I've already, with the help of my daughter, laid it all out, and we roll it up, and then that makes it easier to pin. So I'm going to finish pinning this, and I will get back to you in a bit. Right. So far then, I've got my cotton, brushed cotton on the back, I've got my batting in the centre, I've got my patchwork on the top, and I've decided that I'm going to just do some simple running stitch and do a grid effect around each of the block. So I'm going to just go in, I've got a little knot, and I'm just going to go all the way. I'm going to do like stitch in a ditch. So I'm just doing some small stitches, just basic running stitch, and then pulling it up. Now I'm just using a moon thread by Coats, and I've chosen quite a neutral soft burgundy colour because on the front you shouldn't be able to see it too much, it should just blend in, and on the back you can barely see it either. So I'm just going to do this all the way along. I've got a thimble to help me out when I need to push. I do tend to do it a stitch at a time. Because I find it gives me a better stitch on the back. And it is a quilting needle. And if you're anything like me, it doesn't matter which finger you put your thimble on, you'll always push with a different finger. I have found that at one point I tried putting a thimble on every finger, that didn't work. I've got these sort of metal thimbles, half thimbles, and I've also got these little prims as well. I swap between them depending on what my fingers are feeling like at the time. Oh, it's got a fibre in that one. So this is going to take me some time because it's hand stitching. So I'll have to come back and show you how I'm getting on in a much later video. So ta-ta for now. It's great seeing you, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care. Bye bye.